I'm going to start you off with a very pointed question. I have a very selfish agenda that I want to go back to Delhi and tell all our infra friends there that we were in Bombay at the Edelweiss conference, and I'm coming to you a little later, that between my two friends who are deeply in power, this is the solution they had for solving the fuel problem. Bullock is working on it and everybody is. So tell us, share, because 60% of the financing is in the power sector. The biggest problems are in the power sector. There aren't so many problems in the road sector other than some administrative stuff. So the real issue is power. And within power, the DISCOM story is known. Political chori, wo sab pata hai. The real problem facing the nation today on the power sector is how to solve the fuel conundrum. Right? So what is your message for the powers that be in Delhi? Saying, sir, from our point of view, this is the solution. So I'm going to start with you, sir.
I think 5 years ago when the whole process started, the things were more or less known, that we had to go through the entire reforms process logically and complete every aspect of it. But there was a lot of bullishness in terms of the generation, a lot of private sector participation came in. The tariff structure, the UMPPs, everything brought in a very different level of enthusiasm, say that we will reach that point. Unfortunately, the last 2-3 years, practically nothing has been done on environment, nothing has been done on permissions, approvals, bringing everything under a single window. And you heard the huge investments that have been already made on the generation part. I think the fuel aspect was also known. What possibly was not known, that sudden rise in the commodity prices, which could have been estimated in terms of how the demand growth is happening in India and China. So that possibly took by surprise in terms of the tariff fixation and the norms that were laid down. But I feel the government has now understood that this is a starting process and there will be hiccups. We will have to sort it out. You have a huge amount of monopoly on the coal site that has to perform, that has to meet its promises and deliver what is required, because most of the bidding has happened on the basis of the large amount of commitments from the public sector itself. Now this plus other aspects of how do you ensure that future also the investments continue and the tariff structures have a proper flexibility. So I think these issues are being addressed. How soon, how fast, 1 quarter, 2 quarter, because you're looking at capacities coming in. We at Adani have already put 3,300 megawatt operational. Fortunately for us, a big chunk of it was already to our Indonesian mine. But that was again a surprise which was not really estimated in terms of our model. So I think the very gesture that the government means business, government wants to sort out and ensure that the sector gets the right amount of support is a good direction at this stage. The nitty-gritty, the micro issues, specific issues, the center state, all those will have to go through the process. But I think the thing has started, and which is a very good sign from our side.
Lalit?
I think, firstly, we need to look at fuel in a holistic manner. I mean, there is coal, so the separate ministry, there is gas, separate ministry, there's atomic, separate ministry, there's renewable, separate ministry. Hydro is fine, MOP. So you need power, and power can be from, depending on which country do you go, some countries have 90% atomic, to some countries can have 50-60% hydro, to somebody can have most of it gas and thermal and all kinds of things. So unless you have, under PMO or wherever, for lack of a better thing, that there is an integration for fuel, that there is coal and gas and atomic and all those things which are options for you to make power. Then we come to each of the individual fuels. So if you come to coal, clearly there is a need to rapidly ramp up production. And unfortunately, Coal India has failed. And if I'm not wrong, the production this year will be equal to last year, or when the capacity is increasing at 20,000 megawatts a year, which used to be a pretty 5-year plan production growth. So that kind of growth is happening in 1 year, and Coal India is unable to increase the production. So whether it is privatizing the mines, whether it is giving clearances, getting land for mining, the entire thing comes on coal. Similarly on gas, with the KG-D6 find, everybody was very, very bullish. A lot of gas plants went into construction stage, expecting that between Reliance and GSPC and ONGC India will be swimming in gas by now. We thought there'll be 300 million, 350 million cubic meters of gas, and there'll be more gas than there'll be buyers. And unfortunately, we have had a problem with the D6 field, and the GSPC, ONGC are behind time. But the gas plants are ready. Atomic, they still say it is to be done by us, and with the little accidents here and there, even plants which are ready cannot be started. So you cannot just do 25,000 megawatts with imported coal. That's not a solution. I mean, you just don't have that much of coal availability. Of the force majeure issues with Indonesia. Any country can. You are at the beck and call of any country. You cannot get that kind of coal. So the coal has to be internal. Gas has to be internal. So I think the fuel availability and what is required to get that availability, and then make that availability available to and so that the producers. So the producer cannot be thinking of everything. So the producer should know where will he get his fuel from, and what will be the linkage in pricing, and that's a pass-through or whatever in your PPAs.
Good. So I am now that we have done this stage setting, you are a funder, you are a private equity play in the infra sector.
Yes.
So which sector are you confident today to fund?
It's a very good question, Vinayak. I think this is, from our fund thesis, we are obviously focused on the power and the transportation space, energy in the transportation space. Within transportation, we're talking about roads. But as you said, all these problems are there in each of the sectors. And I think the problems in the road sector are made by the private sector to some extent. Of course, there are issues relating to the land acquisition and the problems of utility shifting that are there, that have been known. But people have gone berserk in terms of bidding, and that has resulted in the kind of problem that we have today on the road sector. So that's more made by the private sector. If I look to the power sector, yes, the issues have been largely because of the fuel issues where are creating a problem. But I'm also an optimist in the sense that this is not something new in terms of pattern for India. India goes through these cycles, as you rightly pointed out. And therefore, I'm optimistic that this problem that we face, for example, if you look at the coal in India, we have 100 billion tons of reserves, right? And if you look at China, they have 120 billion tons of reserves. We mine 500 million tons a year, and they mine 3 billion. So, there is enough coal in India. And so the problem is self-created. So it's created by the government to some extent, because we say, we went ahead and said these environmental issues, we said there's a go area and a no-go area, and you stop mining. The other problem is that historically, we never saw this as a problem, because Coal India was producing a 3% growth rate, and that was sufficient enough for the sector to grow, because we were adding 5,000, 10,000 megawatt, and now we suddenly added 50,000 megawatt, and you say, hey, where is the coal? So basically, if you look at it, the bottleneck shifted from the power production to the coal production, and suddenly we are saying, okay, this is a problem. But it is not a problem that cannot be solved. It is a problem that will be solved. And I'm sure, like in India, we always find a solution when we have a crisis. We did that in 1991, and I'm sure we'll find this solution. If you look at all the no-go areas that we're talking about like 1% or 2% under the forest area. I mean, if that's I'm an environmentalist myself, but if that is a sacrifice the government and the nation has to make for over longer-term growth, and it may not be a sacrifice. You could come and do sort of replantation in some other areas and create something interesting out of it. But that's a decision somebody has to take. So it is not that the coal is not available. We have sitting on resources. We don't want to use it. We have created our own problem, and it is solvable. So that is what I wanted to say. And the second is the point that you raised very validly is about the risk allocation. Suddenly, as you said, the government invites people to bid and then puts obstacles in its way. I think this is really coming out of the lack of thinking in terms of risk allocation. Who is the best placed in a project to underwrite the risk? Now, is anybody in the private sector capable or competent enough to underwrite risk on inflation for next 30 years? Answer is no. But when we talk about imported coal-based pricing, we say, okay, you got to write a PPA on the basis of the next 25 years. And you don't have any control on the imported coal prices, so we say we don't give you a pass-through in fuel prices. So who is going to take that risk? So I think a lot of private sector bidders even went into this bidding, knowing very well that this is a problem. It will be fixed at some point in time. We'll figure it out as we go. And that's really the challenge in India, which is also the situation of the emerging market. We are still learning how to projectize these things properly, And it's a new sector, in relatively new sector. So we are learning and we're going through that process. So I think it'll get sorted out. So I'm still bullish on these two sectors. And obviously the point that you made about the central subjects versus the state subject. Now we talk about urban infrastructure, we talk about municipal water treatment, sewage treatment, water supply. Where are the regulators in this sector? Who's going to bring money? And suddenly you overnight change the tariff regulations. We've seen what's happening in the airport sector. Even in a contract which we wrote when I was at ABN AMRO, we privatized this Bombay, Delhi airports. We put it in the contract in the SSA that the government is putting as a framework because we didn't have the ability to actually put it in the contract because we can't take away the parliament's right. So we said this is the illustrative framework. And now suddenly even that is being challenged by the economic regulator, saying that why is this way? We need to go the other way around. Now, if we go into that sort of a process, so even regulators are maturing, even regulators are learning. So, and in state-related sort of projects, there is no regulation, there is no regulator in place. So the challenge about projectizing projects, which are not from the central area, but from the state area, that will require institutional creation, require capacity creation institutions in the state level, and will also require them to go through this learning process. So that is my observation on that.
In the road sector, there has been, as some people said, irrational exuberance in the negative grant business. When you speak to some of those people there, they give you a whole bunch of logic as to why they're... So it's an open issue because, it's a very interesting mix. I remember when Gurgaon Expressway was bid out, Mr. Narula of DS Construction gave a negative grant of 72. When all the rest of the courts, L&T, Gammon, HCC, I remember, were in the bracket of 35 to 47. Broadly, right? And everybody said, hey, this fellow has come from Libya, he doesn't know anything, he's never built a road here, and he's built 72, he will never get financial closure, the road will never be built. But his traffic is growing at 70% today, and he's laughing all the way to the bank on Gurgaon Expressway. So one is really not sure when 26 years down the line, what kind of traffic growth and vehicle mix you will see on the Kishangarh-Udaipur stretch, we don't know. So we hope the people who have won it are right. But let me shift the discussion away because you see, all of you read the Economic Times and Financial Express and Business Standard every morning. So between roads and power, I think there is very little that this panel will be able to add to your insights. I mean, you know it. You know exactly who has bid, how much, what the collective losses of the DISCOMs are. So I want to shift gear a little bit, saying roads and power is an overanalyzed sector. Okay. Lalit, I'll start from you again. What, in your opinion, from a developer-investor perspective, what are your three next big exciting sectors in infra? Let's say in a period from the next 5 years to the next 10 years. What are the three next areas that you are going to take a very, very hard look at?
No, let me talk about sectors which I think we should take a look at.
Okay.
Whether we'll take a look at it, I don't know. Water is clearly the top of the heap, and city water distribution. We got an offer to supply water to a city, and I very politely declined because the same kinds of problems, 80% T&D losses. If it is with the government, I'm okay with 1 hour power, 1 hour water. But if it is with Reliance, then I am not even okay with 1 minute less water. It has to be 24/7. Whenever my tap opens, clean, crystal clear. Somebody will do an analysis and it will go all over the place and say there's 2 bacteria and this and that. For what? For making 10, 20, 30 crores a year? It's clearly the risk reward do not match. So water is very, very critical. City roads. City urban infrastructure, so whether it is all the metros. But now, if you look at the travesty, in 2006 in Bombay, we made a vision. Because we keep on making it every 5 years, 2 years, 3 years, and a vision for 2020, 2050. We said we need 200 kilometers of metros. And the lines were defined, and line 1 to line 9, line 10, everything was all done. So one thought that, we'll catch pace with Delhi and these lines will be built and the interchanges will be built and everything will happen. What is where are we? We bid out line 1. Line 1 is under construction and hopefully with all the multifarious delays that we had, I'll give you one funny example. We have to cross the railway line which belongs to Indian Railways. And so it was expected at a particular height. Then they didn't give us approval for 2.5 years. Now, those people don't report to MMRDA. So they said, no, I might decide after 15 years to build a double-decker railway. So if you really wish to build your metro, then you can go, another 10, 15 meters up and come down. So I said, there is no parabolic metro in the world. But so he said, boss, I can't give you. So what do? Metro 2, we won 2 years back. But environment clearances. So the depot lines, they're saying it's CRZ, you can't build, you've got to build on stilts. Stilts have to have space, the mangroves have to smile. So fine, 20 lakh people need not travel on metro. So all that carbon and you spend 2 hours on car, that's all fine. But the few mangroves have to smile. Right? So, and the line 3 to line 9 haven't even seen on the drawing board. So it's part of the, prioritization. So urban infrastructure, which is a $1 trillion opportunity by itself, is a huge challenge, huge opportunity. But unless I think the stakeholder buy-in is created very, very clearly for water, for roads, for urban metros and things like that, it's unfair for a private sector to come in. And a public sector, it will be very, very difficult for them to do it.
It's interesting. You have actually put your finger on all 3 urban projects. Urban roads, urban water and urban transportation. I mean urban MRT, LRT, whatever.
No, I mean, on the social side, all rural, and you raised it in your presentation that if you, again, maybe collecting money will be very difficult, making user pay will be very difficult, but you should do it on a annuity basis, and you'll get far superior quality from private sector than to do it in the way we are doing. So you can have big parties coming in and doing 50,000 kilometers of rural roads and Bharat Sadak and everything.
All of that.
And you can do really good work.
Devang, your 3 favorite future sectors?
I'll just extend the logic that we've used at the group level. What we've done is that we've concentrated on energy and logistics as the primary drivers. And I think that makes a big amount of requirement for the country too. So we feel that in terms of energy, whether it's on coal-based or whether it's on gas-based, that's one area that will grow. There's substantial requirement. And our theme is essentially excellent. I mean, extremely important is the execution, the rampability, and the third is the level of integration. So I think wherever there are the possibilities where you can integrate stuff, in India there's a lot of things that are not, they're not there. We did it port. And when we put up the port, there were no rails, there were no roads. Now you gather competencies, you build up strengths, and then you get into a similar theme in various parts. So that's how we built in the 3 large verticals of port, power, and the coal trading that we had started off that went into the mining. So the third one is the mining part. Now that integration gives you a tremendous amount of potential to take it to a very different level of rampability. It gives you some de-risking, it also gives you a tremendous opportunity because one feeds on the other. So I think these are the areas that are going to grow. Then there are alternate energies. We have something in solar, so I think that is something which we're also pursuing. We feel that what can be done by India is it can learn lessons. We have a brief experience in Australia that we set up acquired a port there, and we're doing up the mining there. But the amount of enthusiasm, we could acquire tracts of land in a very different time span. We could start off the process of environment clearances at a very different pace. Our whole mining team in India, we have contracts of almost 110 million tons. The whole mining team has been waiting for 2.5 years to the kickoff. The mine plans are ready. And when we do the comparisons, we feel that why are we missing out on these opportunities? So I think the scale of operations that are required, they are there. There is enough enthusiasm to do that. In the sector, energy and logistics, so much to do. And when we get into the ports part, we've got, of course, 4 more ports on the west coast, the east coast that you're doing west coast. We're looking at something on the east coast too. So possibly again a theme of integration, but most of our mines are situated on the east coast. Now that can add up to a value creation, it can add to a level of domain expertise that can be enhanced substantially.
Panelists have made some excellent points. On behalf of all of us and Edelweiss, I just want to thank all the panelists.